Hi there, welcome. We are here for our What's New and Coming Up with Lipedema. I am so happy to welcome everyone here. It is an absolutely gorgeous early evening here in New England. It is the kind of weather, if I could have this year round, I would do it. Where it's warm and it's cool at the same time.
Hmm.
It's the sun's shining. We had some rainstorms, so everything is sort of settled. We're not having a heat wave anymore. I just love it. And it's going to be a great weekend. Hi there, Swift. And hi, Jenny. And so I'm here. I'm Catherine Sayo, and I'm here with Siobhan Huggins, who's our research specialist. And all
Hello.
around amazing what she knows about nutrition and the metabolic system. She's my go to person about all of that. So, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yes, and here in Boulder, it is gray and cloudy and probably going to storm. I feel like we've been getting rain for like 2 months straight. I know it's not quite that, but it's been very a very rainy season this summer.
Yeah, it's been crazy. The weather's been crazy, but then that leads us into a conversation about whether or not we're having climate change. And I don't think I want to go there today. I'd much rather go to what we're learning about the metabolic system. I got my stay tuned. I got my samples specimens out for the Genova diagnostics on the metabolic system. I'm going to be learning a lot more. But I want to say that Siobhan, speaking of what's new and coming up with lipedema, Siobhan is going to be doing a webinar for us next, well, the 7th, whatever day that is. I think it's Thursday.
It is Thursday.
Thursday. Midday. People ask me, I got an email like, why are we doing a different time? We're trying to support the community. So we're trying to do timings that are supportive of the UK and Europe because 2 o'clock is 7 p.m. in England and the UK and 8 p.m. all throughout Europe and South Africa. And we have lots of attendees from those areas. And when we do it at 6 and 7 o'clock in the evening, which we do a lot of, it's too late for them. So we're doing the best we can to serve everybody in the community. So I just wanted to let people know that. Um, okay. Swift. Oh, good. She sees us now. Good. So why don't you share some? I'll put the link to the webinar and share some about the webinar coming up.
Yeah, so the webinar is going to be about gentle nutrition for lipedema. So it will be a little bit about why we want to make nutritional change with lipedema, um, but not, I think, in a way that a lot of people are used to. So a lot of it can be very, um, I don't know, very negative. I feel like very strict and all rules and all this stuff. And instead, the way that I want to talk about it is more about building up a partnership with your body, really understanding why we want to make these changes, what impact it's having on the body, what symptoms that it might be able to help with, and then also how to do that in a healthier way mentally. So, talking a bit about, it doesn't have to be all at once. It doesn't have to be miserable. A lot of people, I think, have had that restrictive experience of you can only eat like a single flake of something in a garnish and that's it. But it really does not have to be that way. It can be very luxurious and pleasant and joyful and fun. but also in a way that is going to help your body feel the best that it can be. And then also some considerations in terms of just areas that we know can be trigger points for lipedema. So pregnancy is one example, but then also perimenopause. So if we're doing this nutritional plan, like, can you even do that during pregnancy? That's a huge question that people have. And then also with perimenopause, why does that seem to be a trigger? And then what are some nutritional things that we might be able to play around with during that time to hopefully help and explore that? And just what I mean, there are more people exploring nutritional approaches for perimenopause, which is really cool. My doctor actually has, I think it's like a certification or something like that, but she's super into like female hormones and all that stuff. So I've had some conversations with her about it.
Do you know, Siobhan, what's so fascinating is we know that hormonal disturbance of any kind affects lipedema.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we can say, for the most part, that onset for most of us was early puberty, with
Mm-hmm.
the onset of menses. So that gives us some information, and we know that pregnancy affects women. So often, women will go into pregnancy one way and come out. You know, there are lots of women who lose their pregnancy weight, and there are many who don't, who
Mm-hmm.
keep it, and not only keep it, but keep it more localized around the areas that we tend to see lipedema. But I'll tell you, nothing had me begging for mercy like perimenopause.
Mm-hmm.
It was the most unexpected and severely impactful time. It was just so strange. And I think part of the reason it was so strange, it was so unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect it. Um, anyway,
Yeah, and I feel like there's been a lot more discussion around that in the past, I want to say, decade, and then in the past few years in relation to lipedema specifically, just what is going on, what are some things that people can do about it. And then in terms of pregnancy and puberty, there's actually, I'll put it as a resource during the webinar, but there's a really great talk by Ben Pickman talking about how these 2 points are natural periods of insulin resistance. And often when we talk about insulin resistance, it's something negative, but you need to be slightly insulin resistant during periods of your life. So when you get sick, you're probably going to be slightly insulin resistant. It's part of the immune system and the immune response. It's necessary for energy regulation and all of that stuff. With pregnancy and puberty, there are periods of growth. So how do you easily get really fat? You become slightly insulin resistant. Um, and so that's happening during those periods, and that might help explain why there are also periods of vulnerability with lipedema. Is you're naturally more insulin resistant. With lipedema, you might have a little bit of vulnerability built in around periods of weight gain and insulin resistance as well. And then if you add on top of that any other things that might increase that vulnerability, a diet that's not working perfectly for you, um, lots of different things beyond the scope of the presentation, but things like environmental toxins or stuff like that, then you could start to see potentially some worsening symptoms. And then with perimenopause, it's not quite the same thing, but it is sort of. So, what we tend to see is that after menopause, women become more likely, they almost start to slide towards the risk level of men in terms of things like diabetes and cardiovascular disease and things like that. And that hormonal shift introduces some metabolic vulnerability. to women after that point. So they lose the kind of buff of being women and having lots of estrogen and all this stuff in terms of a stronger immune system and things like that. And they start to slide into a higher risk profile. So, again, if you're matching that up with other vulnerabilities, then you one way to think about it is you might be more vulnerable to things that might increase symptoms and cause progression. So it's something to be aware of. But then, there is a lot more explanation, like a exploration, like I mentioned, around nutritional therapies and lifestyle interventions for perimenopause. But then also there's a lot more talk in terms of hormonal replacement therapy during that period of time, just to kind of help ease you in, not permanently, but to get through that transitory period and make it a little bit more gentle.
Yeah, Marilee is chiming in. She says, "Me too. Menopause caused my weight to skyrocket, even though I was on a well balanced, restrictive diet." Me too. And here's
Mm-hmm.
the thing, it's like we think we're doing something wrong. And that's what makes it so challenging, because it's like I remember saying, my God, I'm eating fish and kale. How can I be gaining weight? It was like my diet was so squeaky clean. And I kept trying to make it, low cal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wonder if that's not always necessarily helpful to be super, super, super low calorie.
Mhm.
Like we know it's definitely not for pregnancy. You want to have enough nutrition to get through that period and put on the healthy weight and things like that. With perimenopause, I haven't seen it mentioned as much, but you are going through this period where you are more vulnerable. And if you're severely calorie restricting, you are necessarily nutrient restricting.
Mhm.
And so I have known, for example, some carnivores who went through perimenopause, and what they found was almost the opposite. They needed to increase their fat intake to help support hormonal health. Maybe they did fasting, but in other cases, they did fat fasting, so it wasn't 0 calorie. It was just limiting the protein and carbs for a period of time, getting into even deeper ketosis. And then some other women also found that in order to lose some of that perimenopause, menopause weight, they ended up going lower fat on the other end. Or some did use hormonal replacement therapy, or switched things up entirely, or added in resistance training. There's a whole bunch of different things that they did. It's not like one thing worked for everybody across the board. It was more just that they needed to change things. And in some cases, it wasn't the change that they might have anticipated needing, which is interesting. So keeping an open mind and approaching it with more curiosity than anything. And some, actually, I remember there was a woman who went carnivore because of perimenopause, and she found that she got a lot better after dropping coffee.
Mhm.
So that's sometimes it might just be increased sensitivity in general, or I don't know. But like we definitely don't have all the answers, but more to say that it's a time where exploration and experimentation might be really helpful.
And so I'm just going to point out that because I put up the link to register for the webinar. And again, it's Thursday, August 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, which then makes it 7 p.m. UK time. Make sure you write that down, Jenny. And it makes it 8 p.m. throughout Europe and South Africa. And it makes it 2 in the morning in Australia for most of Australia. So we won't see you, but but we'll see some of them in New Zealand is okay. So, but we definitely have to spread out the timings.
Hmm.
Okay, Marilee put something.
Yeah, she said she's always been very active, riding dressage 6 days a week, plus cleaning stalls, bucking bales, very physically active. Yeah, and I don't think it's like perimenopause issues are like caused by physical inactivity or anything like that, or like you can prevent them entirely with physical activity. It's more just one of the changes that some people have made if they weren't already at that level
Yeah,
of adding in resistance training and switching things up that they found useful. I think it's going to be very individual, and I think there's a ton that we just don't know,
yes,
which is why there's so much experimentation because like people have done enough to where it's like, okay, we know that women become more vulnerable to metabolic disorders at this time. So, doing nutritional things to help decrease some of that and address that seems to be helpful. Other women, just like with any health issue, seem to have more issues with food sensitivities or things like that around that time. Okay, that's one thing we can try. Other women find resistance training or other things like that really helpful. Okay, we'll throw that into. So it's more like a tool set for people to explore. And if you're already doing one of them, clearly that's not where the improvement is going to be.
so I again recommend coming to the webinar. I find Siobhan's webinars always give me way more information than I can take in.
I've tried to be better about that over the past few years. I feel like the community has helped me so much really focus in during these webinars and presentations and stuff to pare it down because I know if I want to go further into detail, I can always come back and do another one whenever I want,
Yes,
pretty much. So,
yeah.
but yeah, I'll try to cover a lot of different stuff just to kind of lay down a foundation to think about more as a community too, to have that discussion of what's worked and what hasn't worked and what you're interested in and potentially what you want to try if this is something that you're experiencing right now.
So I hope to see you there. I'll be there. And I want to do one other thing in our last 5 minutes, which is to, um, oh, isn't that interesting? Jenny says when she became perimenopausal, she became allergic to nuts overnight.
Mm,
Yeah, all that kind of
interesting.
stuff. It's really fascinating. And
Yeah.
so I want to take the last 5 minutes and go over our upcoming um, Congress. Here, let me put the link in the chat. There it goes. And there it is. Learn.lipedema-simplified.org/lipedema. That's my cat's tail, just so you don't think I'm growing a tail. Lymphedema-event. So usually Bella comes up. This is my other one, Karamia. So she's hanging out a little bit. Um, but I want to just mention about the Congress because we went through the entire table of contents today. There was a group of women who had donated um, quite a while ago um,
Hmm.
as we were putting together the book. And so those donations, what we said is if you donate, you'll have an early copy of the book. Plus, we'll do a special tea, afternoon tea, like in England, they do that. Okay, here's my cat. She's kissing me. So we had it today. Wasn't that wonderful, Siobhan?
Hmm. Yeah, it was really fun. It was nice to just get to hang out in a group and chat about the book, and everyone is excited for it and looking forward to it and really sees the future in it, which is very cool about the impact that it can have.
And there isn't a book that's been written like this one.
Mm-hmm.
This one is, I mean, to the best of our ability, we have most of the major conversation points about lipedema, genetics, differential diagnosis. This is for medical professionals,
Mm-hmm.
for healthcare professionals. It's really designed to help answer some of the questions and change from not having people who can diagnose to having professionals who know enough about the disease to be able to help those
Hmm.
who come to them. So, so it's really exciting. And our Congress in here, I'm going to actually show you if I can do this. This is our Congress in September 26th and 20 to 28th, 3 days, like we do. And just to point out, right now the price is lowered at $97. It's not going to stay that way. It's that way probably probably for a little while in August, but then it goes up. So here's the book and here's the table of contents, which is what we did today, is go through the table of contents with those who came to the tea, and we drank tea. Since it was on Zoom, everyone had to provide their own tea and crumpets or whatever, biscuits. So anyway, here's the introduction. It's on the landing page, so you can take a look at it. You know, now that we're talking about kind keto, Siobhan, I'm realizing the thing that's missing from the book is something on hormones.
That's true.
It's,
Well,
yeah,
the issue is, I mean, we've been keeping an eye out for this for years, and we know people who are focused on lipedema, and we know people who are focused on hormones, but we don't know people who are focused on hormones in the context of lipedema. So as soon as we find that person, we will
that's
get
true.
them to make something for us. But I mean, I think even hormones in the context of weight gain and metabolic disorders and things like that might be good too. Um, yeah, I'm still keeping an eye out everywhere I go.
Yeah, that is true. That is the issue, is that we haven't found someone who really understands it from the point of view of lipedema and lymphatic disorders.
Hmm.
That lovely message from TK. She thinks she probably has lipedema and she's found our work. So, welcome, TK. We are here. We have so much to help. So, Siobhan's webinar, let me put up the link one last time. Here's Siobhan's webinar on Thursday, August 7th, and our Congress coming up. Um, there's the link for the Congress. That's September 26, 27, 28. It's a 3 day Congress. Amazingly, amazing. With many of the authors from the book will be there.
Hmm.
Well, that's what's new and coming up. Whatever else you're doing this weekend or wherever you are in the world, because it may already be the weekend where you are. So, whatever it is, may you have a blessed time.
Yeah, see you next time.